Do you find yourself searching, yearning for more, but you don't know what that more is? I'm Duncan, near-death survivor, mystic, and intuitive. Welcome to Everyday Awakening. On this podcast, I explore what it means to be alive. I help you awaken into your soul and live fully now. Through inspiring conversations, we'll dive into mindfulness, spirituality, and the transformative power of presence and living aligned with this universal energy. Together, we'll examine life's biggest questions, and I'll share practical wisdom to help you open your heart and awaken to the preciousness of being alive. Today's guest is Sherianna Boyle, a true force in the world of emotional wellness and spiritual growth. She's the author of 11 books, including her latest, Just Ask Spirit, and the transformative Emotional Detox series. Sherianna is the founder of Emotional Detox Coaching and creator of the Cleanse Method. Her book, Energy in Action, is changing the conversation around manifesting by connecting the power of emotions and intuition. Sherianna presents regularly for organizations like PESI and Kripalu. On top of that, she's an adjunct psychology professor, a longtime yoga teacher, and the host of Just Ask Spirit radio show. Welcome to the show, Sherianna.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine.
Well, it's great to meet you today, and you blend science and deep soul. I discovered you through your book, Just Ask Spirit, that came to me through thin air, and I love.
Oh, okay. I was wondering how we connected.
Yeah,
okay.
It just came through and appeared on my radar, and I enjoyed reading it cover to cover.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
Well, let's dive in. Love to hear from your book, starting with your book, Just Ask Spirit. How do you define spirit?
Yeah, so I define spirit as a state of connection, of being in connection. So I'm connected to you right now, and when we're connected to each other, there's a spirit there. There's an energy. There's a life force. There's a consciousness. So I would say conscious connection. When I connect to a tree outside, that's an energy. That's a life force. When I connect to my spirit guides or Mother Earth, all of that is a state of being in connection. And my guides have told me that that's really about something that I'm supposed to be educating, helping people to recognize it's not just about connecting with your guides. It's about connecting with your guides and then taking that skill set and learning how to connect with one another.
Do you go so far as defining the difference between spirit and soul? Some people do, some people don't. I'm curious what you would say about spirit, soul. Are they the same? Are they different?
My experience of spirit is energy. The soul, in my experience, is connected to the memories and the lifetimes and the learnings that one goes through. So that feels, sometimes we work on a soul level. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's emotions that are happening where people feel stuck or have suppressed emotions in this lifetime, and then sometimes if they can't get over those, or they're having a hard time, or they're just super triggered, then sometimes we work on a soul level. And that will come from other times that they need to complete or resolve those emotions. Spirit is the energy, is the consciousness, it's light, it's life force that helps us to clear and transmute any of those soul wounds that we might be carrying.
So it sounds like you do differentiate a little bit between spirit and soul. I'm hearing them with my eye from living and working in this field for a long time. I still hear them kind of similar, but maybe slightly nuanced different by the word energy.
Yes. I mean, soul, they're both infinite. That's where they're similar. They're eternal. But for me, it's the spirit is of a consciousness again, and soul is everything that you come with. it goes on from lifetime to lifetime. And as you learn things, that influences your personality, your characteristics, how you handle things. But essentially, you're still the same soul evolving. And as you evolve, you shift, but the core you is always you.
So would you say that when we die, our soul goes on? Or soul?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you
Yes.
would say more soul than,
Soul, spirit,
yeah.
that would feel interchangeable for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm often, over many years, asked, what do you think? Do you think there's a difference, spirit, soul? And some people really get into defining a difference. In your book, you talk about levels of consciousness, including higher self.
Yes.
I'd love for you to share with people listening today what you mean by levels of consciousness, higher self, how you would define that.
Well, the levels of consciousness depends on how your emotional energy is moving. So if you're blocking your emotions or minimizing or suppressing them, then that's going to influence your consciousness, your ability to see beyond what's in front of you, and your perception, also your experience of things in the world. So the more conscious I am, the less I take things personally. The more conscious I am, the less I go to fear or scarcity. The more conscious I am, the more I trust and know. So two people can have the same exact experience, but based on their level of consciousness, it's report it completely differently. One person can say, oh my gosh, isn't everything just going terrible? The world's just falling apart. And it's always a challenge because I'm like, I just don't feel it. It's not my experience. And what's the difference between the two? It's just the emotional processing, the consciousness, and connecting with your higher self, which is something nobody has learned how to do. So when I talk about higher self, I'm talking about the part of us that is not attached to the physical. So there's our physical, what I see, what I construct, and then there's the non-physical, and that's my spirit. And when you connect to that aspect of yourself, it's like a muscle. You have to choose to connect through your free will, learn how to connect through your senses, through your higher senses, like your clairvoyance or sense, your spiritual senses. So we have the human senses, and then we have senses that are sometimes unexplainable.
I'm right there with you. I think every one of us, if we can come in the moment, be still, we have gifts. If it's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience,
Yeah.
one of them is often more pronounced. So going back to higher self,
Mm.
it almost sounds like I'm hearing you equating higher self to spirit. Would that be accurate?
It is like your spirit of you, your spiritual self. It's your true self. It's without any ego.
Would you equate higher self with spirit, but also that divine consciousness, God consciousness?
Absolutely, because now, well, we're heading into oneness now. So as we get into the higher self, we're getting into that space of where it's going to be hard to separate anymore. And that's trippy for a lot of people because we're so conditioned to put things into boxes. But the higher we go, the more we're one, and then we learn to work on another level. And that's where the spiritual laws are, right? That we connect with those spiritual laws. Like, for example, the law of correspondence. What happens to me happens to you. We're one and the same. There's no better or worse. You impact me, I impact you. We're all one, which also shows us where our gifts lie. So if we work on ourselves, if we tune our energy and learn how to connect to spirit, we are making tremendous changes in the world. We're reflecting that out.
And I ask this because I have found in my work as a chaplain, my private practice now, some people get hung up with the wording higher self, or is it consciousness or divine consciousness or oneness? I mean, just the nuance of language.
Yeah. I think what would really help me, Catherine, understand it is years ago I was trained in quantum healing, and I got to know the rays of light that way, and that's in just a spirit as well. And I'd never heard the rays of light or worked with the rays of light. And quantum healing is basically, it means working in the field of possibility. It's like a form of energy healing. It's not Reiki. It's similar in that there's no touch. But once I started to experience the rays of light and work with them, and many spiritual ascended masters as well as the archangels oversee these rays of light. And then I started to understand higher self. And again, we're going back into those senses. So the brain isn't going to get this. You're going to try to, again, it's not a house. It doesn't have four walls and, a foundation and a ceiling. The brain won't be able to go into the files and say, oh, right. I mean, a lot of us come here and it's like having amnesia when we land on the planet. We forgot where we came from. And so the higher self, once I started to connect with the rays of light, like the gold ray of light, and you see those rays depicted around a lot of ascended masters, the golds and the beautiful blues and the light coming in. Then I started to get in touch with the vibration. I started to feel it. I started to sense it. I started to learn from it, listen to that. And then then I started to connect to the masters that oversee them and the archangels. And so it sort of just evolved. And then I started to understand myself as higher self, because we're not, we want to put ourselves lower all the time. They're up here. But once you get into the higher self, you realize we're one big family of consciousness.
I really appreciate your comments about rays of light. I want to dive into that. But before I do, I want to go back for a moment to how energy, I really enjoyed how you explained that in your book and how you're explaining it now, how energy expands or contracts, that energy consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. So really how this all came about, Catherine, was through my work as an emotional detox coach. Once I started to really understand emotional processing and teaching people that when they block their emotions, they block spirit. That's the bottom line. When they block spirit, so they say, oh, I don't believe in that. My kids did that for a while. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that, and so when you do that, you block your emotions, because to believe in anything, you have to feel. Mm-hmm. You have to be open. You have to be grounded. It's a safety thing. And so one influence the other. Either way is an avenue to the spiritual realms, whether you want to enter. And for a long time, I was very, very highly, highly spiritual. But then, like a lot of people, I got off track. And I got off track because life was so busy. And then it became more about coping. How do I cope with this? How do I cope with that? And then it became more about managing. Not just managing my own emotions, managing other people's emotions. And so as soon as I learned to stop and go into stillness and process the energy starts to expand. And you allow it to go to be fluid. And then if you do that, again, it's like a muscle. And you learn that when you process something, and when I started to see it in my clients, I started to see them open up. And I would ask them, what are you feeling? Started with just processing an emotion. Well, I'm experiencing this and that. Okay, you're opening up your consciousness.
You're sharing the golden truth of what I have found the pathway to healing. It is feeling your feelings. To open to spirit, and it equates to feelings, consciousness, even on that energy scale, the consciousness of feeling your feelings and knowing where you're at. Are you feeling, I'm just as an example, joy, love, thankfulness, highest vibrational energies? Are you feeling fear, shame, regret, lowest energies? But it is, the pathway is, you've got to feel, to release, to let go, to be able to move through it, integrate, and move into love, joy, those higher energies.
Yes, because we want to ask for support. I think so many people are trying to do everything alone. And so there's another step here. Yes, feel your feelings, process your emotions, And that's what my guides told me, which is in the book, feel first, then ask.
Mm,
Feel first, then they kept repeating that. Feel first, then ask.
I like
And
that.
and they're
Like,
both equally important. And
mhm.
here's the other thing they said. This is after the book was written, Catherine. They said if you don't feel, you won't ask.
And I'm sure you've had
If
family members that don't feel or don't want to feel. I mean, I have a family member. I've had, of course, clients who are like, nope, nope, not going to do it. I don't do emotions. I don't want to feel. And then they're just stuck in this quagmire.
Right, and they don't know who to ask. Who do I ask, right? What who do I talk to? I mean, are they there? Are they not there? And so getting educated about that, which I'm sure you do a lot of as well. Okay, there's many, many ascended masters and archangels and guides that you can ask. And some of them, really show up for certain jobs more than others. It's like here, life here on earth, where we if we want a service, we know who to go to.
Mhm.
And so I help people recognize, okay, now you're feeling, now it's time to ask.
Talk about a spiritual team. Can you tell me more about that? What that means when you say spiritual team?
Well, we all have this abundance of spiritual support around us. I don't even think we could put in our minds just how much love and support is there. And the less effort you have, that space of effortlessness, the more, and you just learn to observe. So again, you're going into feeling first, and then you're asking, and then after you ask, you're observing and you're noticing. And as you get to know different spiritual guides, so some people really focus on their loved ones, or they might have a lot of times pets will come in, they're part of our team. And or for me, it's a lot, I focus a lot on the archangels and the ascended masters, so that's usually a given that they come in. So your team can be loved one, it can be a spirit guide, it can be archangels, ascended masters, it can be elements such as the spirit. Again, some people really connect with nature in a way that's really special and sacred more than other people. They connect with the energy of the earth in a way. There's a kinship there, there's a relationship there. Sometimes that's related to our soul and our past lives, what things we've done in the past. I think I was probably a writer before, and I know I have guides that help me come in and write. I don't know all of them, but I can feel it. You get to know what are your senses, and so I will ask for help around things, and so that's our team. Our team is infinite. And the team changes depending on, sometimes you outgrow a certain situation and new team members come in and help you. And not all of them I had, and then sometimes once you start really opening yourself up, things just come in. The other day I had a dream, and my best friend lost her dad about a year ago. And the day before Easter, I had a dream that I went out to dinner. And I looked over, and my girlfriend was sitting at the table with her whole family, and right next door was her dad. And then he got up and he gave me a big hug. And so I called her and I said, I got to tell you, I had a dream. It was clear.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
your dad was there. And I think he wants me to tell you he's going to be with you on Easter.
Mm.
So he's not part of my team per se, right? But they access whoever's available. So they know, and I'm connected to him because that was her dad, right? So he knows me, I know him. So you just never know what can happen.
I believe in a spiritual team as well. And for me, my faith and opening to this universal energy happened at 11 years old when I came really close to dying, and it cracked open. And ever since, I've had a feeling sense. I get a lot. I see a lot. I see spirits. I see angels. I have a totem spirit animal, a wolf. I see every day around me. And when I was a chaplain, I had many, many people who died come back within a week to see me in the middle of the night. I agree with you. The more that we can be here and present and open, every one of us, we get guidance and have gifts, which leads me to ask you, was there a particular incident that opened you up, that opened you into your soul? I mean, in my studies of awakening, in my book, Everyday Awakening, I have found there's three paths. That one path is through crisis, upheaval, death. I mean, that's what happened to me. That really cracked me open. Another is, and I have many people in my private practice who come to me who are searching and feel a sense of numbness, something's missing. And then another path are people I've found that are on the path. They're maybe into yoga, meditation, and they're wanting more. But I'm curious for you, when did these gifts,
Yeah.
when did this consciousness open up for you?
Well, my mother tells me when I was younger, so probably around 10 or 11 years old is when I started to connect. And there was a lot of trauma when I was growing up. So there was some terrible accidents that took place, where people died and things like that. And then there were just in crisis. My house was raided twice for drugs. And yeah, there's just a lot of stuff so we ended up moving because it was just too tough to stay. There were too many triggers. There was, too many things going on. So I begged my mother. I said, please, can we move? I can't be here anymore. I can't, how am I going to grow up? I've got this labels on me. So I asked her, she did agree. We moved to the country. And that's when things started to open up because I was spending a lot of time in nature. I wasn't really connected to anything from before. And I didn't realize, going outside and walking, she and I would walk a lot together. And she would try to talk to me about the trauma, Catherine.
Mm.
She would try to say, is anything wrong? Are you okay? She'd try to get it out of me that way. And I would just not really talk about anything. I'm fine, or, be cranky or something. And so it was really just the being in touch. And I found myself in a church. So this is what she reminds me of. I do remember it. When I was walking, I heard a choir. And I started to go in the church, and I was probably 11, and I sat in the back, and I would go on my own.
Mm.
And they were like, what's going on? Because we were not going to church as a family or anything like that, but they just were like so happy. My mother was like, okay, well, something's happening here. And so did that for a while. By myself. They never asked to go with me, which was probably a good thing. And I didn't even know, I found out later it was a Baptist church. So I was raised Catholic. So I have to believe that was my calling.
So it sounds like your entry point was through early childhood trauma, witnessing
Yes.
trauma, and then being in nature, and fascinating how you landed in a church. And it sounds like that really started to open you up.
Well, now till this day, when I do go to church, which isn't as often, but when I took my children to church, I would say to them, because, of course, kids, they like to talk, especially I have 3 daughters, constantly like, stop it, right? Be quiet.
Oh, that's good.
And then finally I would say to them, this is when the angels are coming in. Be quiet. Because I knew from when I was 11, when the singing, that's why I like the Baptists, because the singing, the angels come in. I said, the angels are going to come in. So they knew this song by, okay, the angels are coming, and they would be quiet. So I think that was that was my entryway.
Mm-hmm. Can you recall, did you have early mystical experiences starting when you were young?
Well, I wrote about it in the book because I lived in a house that we moved to the country in a house in the 1800s, and that house was creepy. There was a lot going on in that house, which scared me a little bit from the spirit world because not everything felt good, right? So sometimes I hear things. I was afraid to go in the basement. It was creepy. My mother loved it, embraced it, and we would research who lived there and who died and what was around us, and she got really, really into it. But it was so it just for me it was I was when I went to the church I felt it, and then when I would go home I'd get scared. I had to work through that. I had to work through that there are some things that don't feel so good. And then but it really helped me have that discernment. And that's where I land today is I know what I'm connecting to. And that's why I love to teach the archangels, because it's a great starting place rather than just sort of opening yourself up to whatever. And so I had mixed feelings growing up. Is this good? Is this bad? I also ended up in a Catholic high school, and then that kind of tripped me up because then there was a lot of conditioning, and I hated it. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is not, you people are full of it. I mean, it was, I would complain to my mother, and I would say, because they would, have you go to confession, and then they would talk about sinning, and then there was a lot of shaming and stuff. And I was like, this is not the God I know, right? So I just said, I'm just going to graduate and move on. But
yeah, you're not alone. I've heard that from many people over the years. So many people.
Yes. Yeah. So.
And people that they finally find their path, and some people where they've walked away. It's too confusing. It's too negative.
Yeah, I know when I'm in it, and I do walk away if I re-enter that. But because I just don't feel it. It's back to the levels of consciousness. I can be in a situation where somebody's again seeing something one way and I'm experiencing it a different way, and if there's too much of a discrepancy, then I probably will walk away.
Mm-hmm. Would you agree that relating to energy and this universal energy, and when I want to get back to the rays of light, but lightness, darkness, what you would say about that? I mean, I've landed at there's light, there's dark, there's light energy, dark energy. I've only seen it when, I've been with patients, I was with a few when they were dying who were possessed, and there was something, and it was a real thing. Yeah. And you're like, wow. But I think light prevails, but I'm curious what you would say about that.
I've had similar experiences as you, Catherine. I still will pick up on negativity or energy or sometimes demonic energy. There's no doubt. I've picked it up in clients and things. I know how to handle it because I have a relationship with my guides, and I've been through, quantum healing and all. I got trained at the master level. So I do think, there are some people behaving in ways that are unethical, manipulative, hurtful, abusive. My rule of thumb is I will never call anybody worthless. I will never tell a client, he's a jerk, I'll never put someone down. I just talk energy. There's something off here. There's something that's not right. And it's really going to take that person and their free will to come out of that. Now, you can pray for people, for sure. That to me, I'm huge fan of prayer, especially huge fan. Every time I talk to my guides, it's like pray, pray, pray. And I do pray for clients that are going, who have been through some really rough stuff and taken advantage of by now it's like everywhere, with scams and this and that. So I agree with you. And there is dark and there is light, and light absolutely prevails. And staying with the light is a devotion. It's not just, okay, I call on the light. There is a lifestyle to it. I don't know if you agree with this, Catherine, but for me, I choose to help people, and so I have to keep my vibration up.
I agree with that. I agree
Yeah.
with the power of prayer. I mean, that has been the healing balm, the reason, I'm alive since a child. And I also think when there is, and I also equate it interestingly to energy. I do kind of energy that's heavy or kind of dark. I can see it sometimes or feel it.
Yeah.
And my experience is, and I share this with many clients over the years, is light overshadows darkness. I think if all of a sudden there's a dark energy, you can ask and pray, please protect me. I also work with my archangels and just ask for protection and light, and zoom, you're okay. You're fine.
Okay, right away. No wait time.
Yep, no wait time.
No wait time, but you have to ask.
Yeah,
And if you're
yeah.
not feeling, you won't ask.
I mean, I've literally had the experience, probably you won't be surprised to hear this, from my years of working as a chaplain at our trauma hospital and hospice chaplain, where I was with so many people in crisis and witnessing them pass. And mostly it was honestly magical, where they had come back in the night and see me and kind of like, zoom. I would open my eyes, see like this blue light, and I can recognize the patient kind of thanking me and be gone. But a few times there was a dark, heavy energy, and I would just see light around me. I'd ask my angels and God for help, and it would all be okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as that.
Yep. So going back to, I would love to hear from you a little more explanation about rays of light. I work with rays of light too. I'd love to hear what you'd share about that.
So it's another version of the rays of light are infinite. So instead of color, where you think of the red ray of light, there's a measurement there, color. There's a hertz. The rays of light are infinite, and again, they're overseen by spiritual guides and masters. They're a frequency, they're a vibration. They also have they oversee different parts of our existence. So there's rays of lights that oversee government and politics and things like that, or the health areas or the education areas, and we're all being influenced in those with those rays of light. When I wrote a book called The Energy in Action, and with that book I was really guided by my guides, because they said, okay, you're going to write a book on the spiritual laws. And I said, no, I'm not. I said, everyone's written about the spiritual laws, I can't write about the spiritual laws. And they kept coming back. And that's the other thing with your spirit guides, that if something's supposed to get through, it will circle back. People aren't connecting the light, they're thinking about the physical, what I think about, what I focus on, and all of that's true. What you focus on expands, and the thoughts you put out are vibration and this and that. But it's very physical. As we go up in vibration, I know people don't want to necessarily hear this, but you're going to be less attached to the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Your manifesting will change.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And going back to, if you're meant to do something, your guides, you'll get a nudging, hearing, sensing, feeling. That's what happened with this podcast, by the way.
Okay.
A year ago, my husband was pushing, like, start a podcast. And I said, please, just stop. I have no bandwidth or energy. I was launching my book. But then in the fall, it came to me out of nowhere again, this podcast. And I just kind of put up a prayer organically.
It's like, uncle.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like at midnight at night, when I was about to go to bed, I heard so loud, start a podcast. And I was like,
Yes. Yes. Yes, I've had those moments myself where the booming voices
yeah,
waking me up in the middle of the night, calling my name
yeah.
to get their point across, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean those have been a big part of my journey, hearing things
Yeah.
loud and clear.
And I also, just for fun, have to say, be careful what you pray for.
Yeah.
Because I just
You just
remember,
might get it.
I
Yeah.
know, as a child and teenager living through, a really rough childhood, going through, I was a childhood cancer survivor. And then I'm like, whatever you want me to do. And I went down the corporate path because that's my entire family is in the corporate world. My father's an entrepreneur for his whole career. He's gone now. But then it just out of nowhere, well, I had a near-death experience that like June got me off the corporate path. And then it's like studying theology, and then it's a chaplain. I'm like, you're kidding me, a chaplain? Like I vowed I'd never step foot in a hospital ever again. And I'm like, I mean, I just remember crying, like, why?
Because there's work behind that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's work. There's no easy. It's the same thing. I'll get a book title. That's
Yeah.
what will happen to me. I'll
Uh,
end the last book. I'll say, okay, I'm all done. I need a break from doing that. And then, sure enough, bam, it just drops in. This
oh,
is
that's so
the
good.
next, the
Yeah,
next project. And I'm like,
yeah.
really, really? And my family's like,
Yeah.
really? She's gonna write again. This is gonna be awful.
I'm already getting a second book. I'm seeing it. I'm getting nudging even over the weekend. I'm like, start writing this down. But I wouldn't dare say it to my husband because he'd be like, oh my gosh, don't even
Yeah.
go there.
Here she goes. Here she goes in another world. I know
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
day, because when you're in mid thought and it's coming out, and I get up the other day, I got up early to write because I write early. And my husband decided to get up extra early that day. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you up? Like,
Good.
he was like, I'm just getting up early.
That is so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so going back to the rays of light,
Yes.
here's how I've organically worked with them. I have a dear friend. She's actually based here in Minneapolis. Her name's Cindy Dale. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's
I
published.
know Cindy. I've interviewed her before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Oh,
a
awesome.
really wonderful
That's
friend.
fantastic. Uh-huh.
Super connected. She's published 40 some books, and so she works with light. And I've learned some of this
Yes.
years back from Cindy.
Yeah.
I can see rays of light going through. I can
Yes.
see light
Yes.
flooding through people, where it gets stuck, where it doesn't, if light can come in, if it can't come in, how it opens, flows through them. That's how I work with rays of light. And then I just get a deep intuitive knowing of, wow, this is truly what they're struggling with. Intuitively, it's combined.
Yeah, the rays are like guides. I mean, it's just another form of the way the information comes in. So I know by the ray what's happening with that client, what's being worked on. Because I mean, let's face it, I'm not doing the healing.
Mhm.
I'm just a facilitator, right? I'm just conscious, raising my vibration, getting that higher consciousness, and then being open and willing to facilitate and let those rays of light move through me
Mhm.
and support the client. But they are like information, the different ones. So my guides told me to associate them with the different laws of the universe. So for example, the spiritual law of attraction, they said yellow ray. That is the yellow ray of light. Yellow ray is all about inner strength. Think about it, to have abundance, people want to like attract, you have to have that inner strength. It's about confidence, it's about true power. Also goes with the chakras system. So we have the chakras, which we know have the colors, and then we have the rays of light, and they don't all match up in alignment. So sometimes you see a blue ray and okay, that's the throat chakra, but sometimes it's the throat chakra, but sometimes it's the blue ray, which is actually very often can hit the third chakra, which is the Archangel Michael will work on the third chakra. So you kind of have to use a little bit more than just the seeing. You tap into other aspects to, okay, what is this, a chakra that's balancing? Is this a ray of light that's coming in? Is this a presence? And usually it's many things are happening at once,
Mhm.
as you know.
Yep, that all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And even working with energy boundaries, I sometimes work with colors, blue or green. I did very much appreciate in your book how you talked about the seed words, lam, vam, ram,
Yes,
for
yes,
balance, for grounding. I work with those regularly and I can feel vibrationally the opening. These are the seed words for
yes.
each of the 7 chakras to help open and balance your energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's saints and there's quotes. Saint Benedict is one of them that talks about chanting. Chanting as a way to ward off any temptation. We all have that temptation to, because I always say when people feel negative energy, don't be tempted. Don't be tempted to get involved in it. And how do we get involved? Well, we analyze it, or we wonder what it is. Just ask your guides to support you. Just release it. Ward off any temptation.
For someone who's, even listeners today on the path or wanting to open more, wanting to feel more, do you have one? I know you in your books you have exercises, but do you have one in
Yes.
particular that you would recommend for someone to feel more into their heart, their soul, the divine consciousness?
Well, in the book, I have process. Process is about integration to me. Process is about becoming whole. There's these tools and these parts, but for me, it's really about the whole 7-step cleanse that I talk about in the book, where you start at the C and then you end at the E. So the C is connecting to your higher self, and then you're moving through, looking inward, which is your tuning into your emotions and using your breath. So I think breathing is a big way. Conscious breathing. Mantra is huge. And mantra is the next step, which is E, which is emit. Emit sound. Emit sound. It could be a sigh. It could be repeating one word. It could be a syllable like lam, ma, something. That's probably that. If they just want to do one thing, I think it would probably, a mantra would be worth your time and taking time to repeat. 108 times is generally the length of mala beads. And you can repeat a spirit guide's name over and over again, 108 times. You can do a seed sound, which connect to your chakras. That will help you to start feeling more. Any kind of sound and movement, moving your body.
So I know we need to wrap this up in a minute. Just walk through for one more minute. So we got the CLE, the ANS.
So E is emit sound. A is ask. Now you're ready to ask anything. Just practice asking. Practice asking for support, asking for guidance, ask for, or just use your voice, speak, ask, spit it out, ask for love, help. And then we have CLEA, so I have to spell it. And then N is nourish, which is you're receiving. So as soon as you ask, you receive immediately. There's no time in spirit. And you have to get used to that because we're used to waiting. It happens immediately. So you just open up your palms and receive. S is surrender, and that's your free will, because you can receive it and still push it away. And I find people do that. They get the information. Oh yeah, I saw beautiful blue light, and oh yeah, I saw this, and oh yeah, my past loved one came in, and it sort of stays at the entertainment level. And the S is, so okay, but can you allow that blue ray of light? Right? Can you really, and that's a free will statement. I allow, which is I choose. And then the last one is E, which is I am. The I am, which is oneness.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. That is just a lovely process to work with the cleanse.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I would love to keep talking. You'll have to come back on my show. I have so many questions I want to ask you. We didn't even get to them.
Yeah, you have to come on my show. How about that?
I would love that.
Yes, yes.
So I end my podcast. I always ask my guests what does awakening mean to you?
For me, it's like an unearthing. It's a it's like little treasures. It's like digging into the earth and finding treasures, but the treasures are about you. Going deeper into yourself with your little gifts, getting to know yourself on a deeper level as a spirit, as a soul, what you're drawn to, acceptance. But I think it's an unearthing, the awakening.
I love the word unearthing. That's great. Unearthing, it sounds like into your soul, into why you're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. So much fun to talk to you. I feel like we could spend the whole day talking.
We could. We definitely could.
Yeah. Well, blessings to you, your wonderful books. How can people find you?
I'm at sheriannaboyle.com, and that's where all my books are. I have some spiritual retreats coming up if anyone's looking to get away. All of that's on my website.
Sounds great. Well, again, delight to meet you. I will look forward to future conversations with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining Everyday Awakening. Let's keep the conversation going online. You can follow me on Instagram at Catherine Duncan, MABCC. And to keep up to date on the show, subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. I'd love to hear from you.